Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I'm going to read the How to Write a Good Article by Eloisa Martin. This article presents the main challenges of academic writing and publication in scientific journals. It reveals some of the most common mistakes in the process of manuscript submission and review and offers some possible solution. The keywords are academic journal, academic writing, internationalization, and then relevance. During the 18th International Sociological Association World Congress in Yokohama last July, Jennifer Platt, the former VP of the publication, organized two sessions for ISA editors. The main purpose was to explain the editor's task and to give editors the chance to explain details about different publications to potential authors. My task was far from easy. I was commissioned to describe what a good article consists of, and I had exactly 5 minutes to do so. In this short editorial, I would like to share some brief advice on the difficult task of publishing in an academic journal. How to write a successful article. First of all, there's no such thing as a good paper. This has become a good article is divine because a good article is defined not just by its content, but more specifically by a writing approach geared toward publication. The number one secret is you have to produce a specific piece of a specific journal. There is no generic good article that could fit in any journal. Before you start writing, then the most important task is to choose the journal. You have the research that you have been working on for several years. Setting, data, conclusion, etc. will be the same in almost every paper you're going to produce. But where to publish will define what to publish and how you publish your research. Let me assist you on one point. A good article is always good for a certain journal. As a result, you should read the journal you have in mind and observe its main features. Successful authors are the best readers. So, in order to win in the publish or perish game, you must begin by reading potential journal in order to determine different strategies for different publication. I would like to emphasize three key features you should consider when preparing your paper. First, check the geographical or idiomatic scope of the journal or the chosen journal and decide if it is national, regional, or international. In some cases, the geographical scope appears in the journal title when they explicitly refer to European, South Asian, Latin American, or African studies. But in many cases, the journal name does not inform and can even be misleading. Almost every country has a national journal called sociology, sociologists, or sociological studies, and though you would think that such journal would be open, most are, in fact, run by national associations which are focused mainly on developing local debates. Next, go to the aim and scope of the journal and discover what the editors are interested in publishing. Second, pay attention to the journal scope. There are generalist journals like Current Sociology, which publishes a wide variety of sociology-related issues. Or they can be specialized, limiting their content to certain area. Subfields, theoretical discussion, or even geographical context. For generalist journals, you should keep your articles more open and jargon free than you would for a specialist one. For instance, Current Sociology is a generalist journal with a very international readership. Contextualization is thus fundamental to make your case understandable for a reader who is not familiar with the social reality you're describing. Finding a common ground for discussion in literature review will help to create bridges to this global audience and make your topic relevant to them. What would the reader from the other side of the world learn from my paper? Authors from the core countries, and in many cases, scholars from the peripheral ones often forget to ask this question. In either case, if it goes unanswered, the relevance of your work can be reduced. On the one hand, the scholars from hegemonic academies assume that everything they do is relevant since they are core. Thus, a descriptive articles on a survey with 500 cases in Central Europe or US should be enough to get published. On the other hand, on the peripheral, the lack of publication about certain country or the simple application of a concept to analyze a remote case is deemed original enough. Both of these assumptions are wrong, as I will show below. Mainstream, interesting and curious does not necessarily develop into something relevant to the reader. Last but not least, the paper's format. You can find two main styles in academic journals. The Imrat style is one of is the one most textbook on scientific writing teach, and it has become the hegemonic model for scholarly publication. Imrat is the only style used in hard sciences, having been used since 1950s in the physics and in biomedicine since 1980s. Embrace articles are structured as introduction, method, result, and discussion. The ideas behind the structures is to better organize the ideas and to and consolidate the theoretical argument that need a more flexible relationship between methods, results, and discussion. In social sciences, this model is more common in US journal and is better suited for descriptive paper and quantitative analysis. On the other hand, narrative articles are most common in Europe and in region with a higher European influence in their academic culture. Narrative articles are more suited for qualitative art analysis and for developing theoretical conceptual discussion. Even though Current Sociology does publish some in-red paper, the journal privileges theoretical discussion, so you would find that most of our articles have been a narrative form. Basically, because this format is more flexible, it is better adapted to the argument and helps to build it. The narrative style is based on the so-called IBC model: introduction, body, and conclusion. In order to have a well-balanced article, I suggest you keep the introduction to around 15% and the conclusion to a maximum 10% of the entire paper. The main body of your article will take up the rest of the space and ideally should be divided into chapters or sections that helps you build argument and help readers find the flow of your ideas. Common mistakes that everybody knows and everybody makes. There are many textbooks of how to write academic proposals and how to write a submit to academic journal. There are also many tips on the internet, publishing houses, blogs, scientific sites for scholars, and diverse online resources offer advice to anyone who knows how to use a search engine. Some of these recommendations are just common sense, but curiously, when it comes to submit an article, authors frequently make little mistakes that jeopardize their chance of being published. So here are some of the most common blunders. Two schoolish submission or article formatted as a dissertation. Sometimes paper looks like a midterm paper or school research project with a subtitle as aims and scope or hypothesis. Other even present a bulleted list copy paste from PowerPoint presentation without any editing. In some cases, authors believe that dissertation chapters, a research report, or a conference paper just need a few cosmetic changes to become a journal article. Everybody has heard that five dissertation chapters can easily become five articles. Although this is possible, and it is always a good idea to disseminate your dissertation in the form of journal articles. Its papers should always be specific to be written from scratch. Consider the specific journal you are submitting to and don't just copy paste an excerpt from the introduction and excerpt from the conclusion. You can just give it a stir and voila. For reference and editors, this kind of rehashing kind of rehashing is all painstakingly evident, if not rejected. In most cases, you will be asked to for a major revision. Therefore, you save time on the review process by properly preparing the first draft on an article and also increase your chance of getting published. Descriptive, descriptive articles without the comprehensive sociological question. Most textbooks on academic writing highlight this because this it is a common problem. You have presented your research, explained the method, shown the result, and compared them to relevant literature. However, your article should still provide a proper answer to the question. So what? Make sure your manuscript answer this question by bringing out the link to core sociological issue, not adhering to submission guidelines or word limit. As authors, we are usually very protective of our text and we believe that our idea needs no space to be developed. In current sociology, a research request for to exceed our journal's word limit almost on a daily basis. In a few cases, this request is valid, especially for review articles, which is why the current sociology review has doubled the word limit for its article. And current sociology tends to be flexible in cases when, during the revision progress and considering the concern of the referees, we find more space is required. But generally, limiting words counts is just a question of editing, eliminating redundancy, and staying focused. The reference style, notes, images, tables, and general layout should also keep the journal indication. Before submitting, read the guideline. It will save you time and frustration because editors tend to simply reject submissions that do not comply. Submitting without being aware of the journal remit or its editorial policy and treating the submission step as a mere formalities. Almost every journal has clear editorial policy, aim and scope, and guideline for author available on its website. There you can also find the name of editor and the editor in chief to whom you should also send a cover letter. This cover letter is your first contact not with the metaphysical journal but with real people who work for that journal. Even though most submissions are now made through online platform, there's always a human being on the other end. Normally, that person is the editor who will decide whether your paper goes in for review. So if you just address the letter to random sir or madam, sending your paper to editor is very prestigious to a very prestigious journal, editor may assume this is a random submission. And they're generally right. If you care about your submission, at least check to see who edits the journal and address your cover letters and explain an email to the person in charge. It is not just about etiquette, it demonstrates that you are genuinely interested in publishing in that specific journal. The editors and the editorial staff will appreciate it. As an abstract is just a copy paste of the introduction, and you can throw it some references here. Most problem on academic writing stem from the indiscriminate use and abuse of copy and paste, based on a strange notion that nobody will know the difference. An abstract is a short text in its own right and deserves time and effort to be written. At the submission stage, an abstract is even more important than the manuscripts, since it is the only piece referees would potential referees would read when they are invited to comment on your text. The better you write your abstract, the more likely it is that your article will be selected by referees. This will reduce the time needed for revision. Consequently, you will get published earlier. Therefore, taking time at the beginning of the submission process to write a good abstract from scratch is a good investment. An abstract must be clear and straightforward, considering number one, the journal specific audience, and number two, main point you are making in your manuscript. It must immediately convey your text main contribution, aims and conclusion to be editor, and referees and reader. Beyond the specific case you're analyzing on your article, the abstract must clearly state the sociological question it is seeking to answer and at least clarify how answering the question will advance some field of sociological debate. Emphasize the originality of your contribution and how you have built it through specific data, method, literature review, and etc. Abstracts only include issues that are analyzed in the paper, but not include rhetorical question, quotation, or references, because it is the first impression of readers and help them to decide if the article deserves to be read. You first, you should also pay attention to include keywords so that your article can be found through online search engine when it is published. The same paper can be submitted to different journals at the same time. Here we have a major problem. On the one hand, all of us operate under publish or perish mandate. Sometimes because we want tenure, in many cases because we simply want to keep our job. This pressure had caused great amount of unethical behavior, from plagiarism to salami slicing. In this framework, simultaneous submission doesn't look so serious, but it is, since it threatens the deeper core of academic publication and neglect the silence and the unnecessarily anonymous and unpaid work of referees. For each article, there are at least three persons who two referees and the editor who are working with you and for you for free to improve your manuscript. And all three are expecting that all at the end of the process you will be published in that journal. Evidently, authors are entitled to withdraw their submission, but considering the hard work that editors and reviewers put into each submission, it is regrettable that they are forced to do so just because the paper has been accepted elsewhere. It is all about relevance. This common mistake merits its own section, believing that interesting is automatically relevant. Even senior scholars could be caught in on this tricky one. To be clear, there's no relevant paper per se. Relevant has to do with audience you intend to reach, the author you're debating with, and the specific bibliography that serve as a common ground for the discussion between you and your readers. First of all, an author is someone who constructs a relevance. Relevance doesn't come with the ease you analyze. That is, the specific, exotic, or the widespread case discussed in the article. The fact that nothing on the topic has been published does not make it automatically publishable. This gap in the literature may instead indicate that the topic is not particularly relevant. The fact that your work refers to a country that is insufficiently addressed in the literature due to geopolitical reason does not make an article instantly relevant either. Similarly, international research with hundreds of cases is not automatically relevant. In contrast, an article about life story of or case study should be quite relevant if the author does this on her work. Relevance basically rests on three pillars: a common ground of the encompassing debate that serves as a common language and enables a dialogue between authors and readers. Referees are your peers. They research the same subject as you and they are reading the same author you do. Thus, you should use a literature review as your starting point. If you would like to include an unfamiliar references or an author who has not been translated into English, you need to build a bridge introducing this author to the audience, relating his or her curve to well-known authors and sociological problems will help you build relevance and will probably spark an interesting debate within your specific field of research. The journal's remit, as discussed above, take into account the geographical and idiomatic scope, but also consider whether the chosen journal is generalist or specialized. If it has a specific theoretical or methodological bias, whether it is editor prefers shorter and descriptive in-breadth papers, or if they want to publish longer narrative pieces focused on theoretical discussion. The journal's audience, it is possible to break down audiences into three groups: national, regional, and international audiences. At each level, the readers expect a specific discussion and a different contextualization. You'll probably need more space to explain and contextualize your data for an international journal that you will for a local one. In contrast, international journals opens the possibility of including specific studies into more encompassing debate. In conclusion, what current sociology consider good paper to be, as I stated above, no matter what journal you want to publish in, it is fundamental to be familiar with it before making a submission. So let's consider current sociology. Current sociology publishes if 7 issues a year, including 4 regular issues, 2 monographs, and current sociology review. Includes among the regular volumes are special issues and shorter thematics section. The special subsection, the submission are open year round through our manuscript central. You can send us your manuscript in any language and we'll search for a suitable reviewer. Before starting a submission, however, please contact the editorial office to find out if we can find reviewer in your language. Articles in current sociology must be between 600 and 6,000 and 8,000 words, including abstracts, notes, references lists. In each case, it is important to recall for the reviewer may suggest further additions or corrections that will add to the total word count of an article. As such, we recommend that author limits their article as much as possible during their first submission. An ideal article for current sociology is on the cutting edge of sociological research, goes beyond the specific the subdiscipline of topic of interest, and discusses theoretical and conceptual questions. As a result, narrative articles are preferred over in-breadth papers. An article could be bibliographic review, a case study, an international comparative study, or a theoretical discussion, among others. Whatever the case, the debate and discussion of concept and theory should be central to the article. Current Sociology is a generalist journal and has a very international readership. Contextualization, in a sense, is fundamental to make your case understandable for a reader who is not familiar with the social reality you're dealing with, and to make it relevant for international discussion, bringing out links with core sociological and theoretical issues. Take a look at the article recently published, who is publishing and what is being cited. In case of doubt, write to the editors. All submissions are initially reviewed by the editors, and only papers that meet the scientific and editorial standards and fit within the aims and scope of the journal will be sent for the external review. Papers will be double-blind peer review by an international panel of sociologists. At Current Sociology, we try to combine a referee from the geographical area you're dealing with a referee, say, from the other side of the world in order to attain real international balance. All in all, there's no algorithm or recipe for writing a good article. There are a plethora of textbooks and tips and lists, and even editors' advice like this one that try to explain how to write and how to successfully publish. And basically, all of them say the same thing. But there is a savoir-faire that you only get in the field. To be a successful author, you should be a good reader and comment reviewer. You need to be an active part of the collective sociology endeavor. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.